Bend your knees and stand your feet. Have your feet standing in such a way that you could imagine yourself standing up. What would it feel like? The way that you feel your feet now, what would it feel like if you were standing up? And is there any way you'd adjust the positioning of your feet if you were getting ready to bear a lot of weight on them? So something that's interesting in the Feldenkrais method is a lot of the lessons are done laying down so that your brain's not organizing your anti-gravity muscles. And so there's a lot of chronically contracted areas that have a potential to soften. But at the same time, when your feet are standing like this, you're getting neurological feedback from your feet that tells your brain that you're standing. So it's kind of like being able to address the activity of your legs and your hips and your back without the effort of having to keep yourself upright. So now interlace your fingers behind your head and play with this a little bit and see if you can find the place behind your head that you can really give your weight to your hands. I like thinking of the hands as like a little basket or a net maybe for a heavy ball. And then point your elbows gently toward the ceiling, not by squeezing your head, but by sort of creating a net around your head. And then start playing with what is the most easy, gentle way you can use your hands, use this net to lift your head a little bit away from the floor and then come back. You might investigate for yourself that if your elbows are a little closer together, does that create less strain for your neck? But be careful that you're not accidentally starting to strain in your arms or your hands. And really take your time and play here with what is your version of comfortable or most comfortable for doing this movement. And then continue, but as you're lifting your head, breathe out and see if that makes the movement any easier, if you're exhaling as you're lifting your head. What's the smoothest, most comfortable way you could do this? So you could just do it all day long. This is all you came here to do, lifting and lowering your head. Where can you soften in your mouth or your jaw, your belly? Good. Leave it for a moment. You can rest your arms if you like. Take a little pause. Bring your attention back to your contact with the floor, with your feet standing as they are, and feel the slope or the curves of your spine in this position, and notice if there feels like there's any difference on the right and the left side of your spine, the right and left ribs, right and left low back, right and left shoulder. And then again, interlace your fingers behind your head. And again, stand your feet if you're not already. And I can't remember if I said this last week. I recently heard a teacher use this image that I just thought was hilarious and awesome of what it would feel like if there was quite a fat cat sitting on one of your knees. Yeah, exactly. And would you want to adjust? It's funny. Would you want to adjust where your foot is so that that poor thing wouldn't fall off your knee or that you wouldn't hurt your legs at all, right? So it's kind of a funny little brain game that you can play is, okay, if I was going to support something fairly weighty on each of my knees, how would I adjust where I'm standing my feet? And then point your elbows comfortably toward the ceiling. Again, maybe this image of a big basket, like from your elbow to your hands to your other elbow is like a big basket. And then use that basket to lift the heavy melon of your head away from the floor and bring it back down. Just do that 2 more times. And then leave your head down and bring your left knee up a little bit toward your chest. And notice if you already started flexing in your foot or hardening in some way. See if you can have the most comfortable way possible to keep your left knee toward your chest. And then this time, start directing your left elbow toward your left knee. So lift your head and direct your left elbow toward your left knee. Don't do a good job though, right? Don't try to get there. The question is, what's the comfortable way you could do this, or the most comfortable way? Yeah, and let's say, go ahead, you could put your foot down, breathe in, and then when you breathe out, lift your head and your left knee and point your left elbow a little bit toward your left knee and come back. And like I said, the challenge is not if you can lift, the challenge is what do you have to do to make this a movement you're not straining in. What is the most effortless way to do it? Okay, and then switch. See how it is to bring your right knee towards your right elbow. And if you go slow enough, you might notice if there's a difference. It might be easier for you on one side or the other. And lift your right foot away from the floor. Bring your right knee in the direction of your chest. And bring your right elbow in the direction of your right knee. Now, check as you're doing it if you can reverse with the same amount of ease that you come up. So you might to come up and then flop back, right? What we're curious about is if we can match the action and the return as best as possible, as easy as possible. There's zero advantage of bringing your elbow and knee close together. It's just a direction. Okay, good. Leave it a moment. Take a little pause. And then again, same situation with your hands like a basket. And lift your head gently and start to bring your left knee in the direction of your right elbow. And elbow in the direction of your knee. And then come back. And make sure you pause in between, right? If when you pause, if you feel a big relief, well, you're probably working a bit too hard. So keep your elbows pointing to the ceiling so you can create a basket. Remember, you want to lift your head. And now be very specific about this, right? The basket is there to minimize extraneous effort with your neck. As it is, most of us already use our neck too much to organize our whole self. So find out, other than straining your neck, where can you bend yourself? Yeah, and then you can switch so that then the right elbow is toward the left knee and the left elbow toward the right knee. Switch whatever you were just doing. And where do you bend yourself here? What parts of you lift from the floor and what parts of you push into the floor? Let's see if you can soften your abdomen. What's behind your abdomen? If you find yourself tightening in your abdomen, you might consider what's behind your abdomen. Okay, leave it, take a little rest, bring your legs down, bring your arms down. Feel your contact with the floor, and some of you might actually already notice some kind of change in the way that you're resting on the floor. And then again, bend your knees and stand your feet. And then hold on to your left knee with your right hand. So bring your left knee into your chest, and then hold on underneath the kneecap with your right hand. And not behind it, but just under it, like the top of your shin. But not on the kneecap, under it, like the top of your shin, top of your lower leg. So not your thigh, not behind. Yeah, exactly, you got it. And then put your other hand behind your head. Make a little basket with that arm and hand. And then in this situation, see how it is to very gently bring your knee and your elbow a little bit toward each other. Lifting your head only as much as you can without straining. And it might be useful to do it on an exhale. And now see if you can start to bring your attention to the parts of you that you're lying on. What way do you shift your weight to bring your left elbow towards your left knee? How do you shift your weight to best accommodate this? What's the most comfortable way to do this? And then bring your head down and switch your hands. Bring your head down and switch your hands. And then find out what's different in this situation. And don't get ambitious, right? The moment you get ambitious, that's when you start to strain. So instead of needing to achieve something or go somewhere, the question is, how do I approach this in a way that's really comfortable and easy? And I notice that a lot of you are flexing your foot. Are you flexing your foot because it's helping with the movement? Or is it straining? So your left hand is just below your right knee. And you're lifting your right elbow. Good, and bring everything down and take a little rest. And then again, bend your knees and stand your feet. Now I see what the confusion was just now. Okay, so again, hold on to your left knee with your right hand. It's the first thing you did. And your left hand is behind your head. Okay, so just 2 or 3 times do that movement and see how that feels. Okay, and then put your head down, but switch your hands. So you're still holding your left knee, but you're switching your hands. Yes. Okay. That's what many of you already did the second time, but I got myself confused. So let's get back on course here. And then a few times lift in this situation. Yeah. And be careful that you're not starting to strain your hands. Are you pulling with your hand, your wrist, your fingers? See if you can soften your fingers. Okay. Then bring your foot down for just a second. And again, switch. Bring your right knee into your chest and hold on to it with your right hand. And put your left hand behind your head. And make a basket with your left arm. And very gently see how it is to point your elbow in the direction of your right knee. You might take note if anything feels different on this side from the other side. But again, check where can you reduce the effort. If I can see effort looking at you, right, then is it possible that you could scan through yourself and catch yourself, trick yourself? Oh, geez, look at that. I was doing this little, right? So it might be in a place that surprises you where the effort's coming from. Maybe it's in your inner thighs or your pelvic floor. Maybe it's clenching your teeth or straining your eyes. Okay, and then keep that knee toward your chest, change your hands. And see if you can feel what's different. Do you shift your weight in a different way? How do you bring your knee toward your elbow? The same amount that you bring your elbow toward your knee. And notice if you're shortening in your abdomen. And check and see if there's any other possibilities there for your abdomen. Good. And then let it go. Take a little rest on your back. And again, check your contact with the floor. So part of what can be damaging for when we're doing crunches or equivalents is that we're flexing and we're tightening our abdomen and we're tightening our throat, and our extensors, the muscles in the back, are not being given permission to adjust to the shortening in the front, especially if the movement is tight and quickly repetitive. So what you can keep coming back to as we continue exploring this kind of movement, this kind of flexion, is this idea of as you improve an easeful way of flexion, you're also improving your ability for your extensors, the muscles in the back, to release. So there's this delicate neurological balance between the part of us that bends us forward and the part of us that bends us back. And our system can forget. So that our head ends up being bent a lot forward, and we get a lot of strain in our neck, or sometimes we get a rounding in our upper back or a big arch in our low back. We don't want to rigidly force ourselves into an opposing shape. We want to improve the relationship between the front and the back parts. And bend your knees and stand your feet again. And turn your head to the left. Comfortably to the left. And then bring your right knee in toward your chest and hold it with your left hand just at the top of your shin. And put your right hand behind the left side of your head. So you keep your head turned to the left. You might be holding somewhere around your left ear. So your right hand holds somewhere around your left ear, from behind, from underneath. So it's like what you just did, except what you just did, your face was facing the ceiling, and now your face is facing to the left. And if there's any strain in this position, you do less. Always you do less, right? You can always modify however you need to make it easier. Now again, you want a basket situation with your right arm. So you might point your elbow a little bit more toward the ceiling. You see what's going to work for your neck and head. And then in this situation with your face turned to the left, however much is easily accessible for you, then go ahead and see how it is to bring your knee toward your head and your head a little bit toward your knee. What happens to your right shoulder? And what's different with your left shoulder? And again, where do you feel the pressure of yourself in the floor? What part of your rib cage do you lean on in order to bring that elbow and knee toward each other? Yeah, and come down completely before you come up again. Don't just do and do and do. Come up and then pause, then come back and pause. And again, you can try to trick yourself and you can see, is there another way to do this? And can I soften my palm? Can I soften my eyes? Can I soften my chest? Where do you look with your eyes when you do this movement? Okay, bring your foot down, rest a moment with your feet standing. Roll out your head a little bit, make sure you didn't secretly, accidentally start to strain your head, your neck. And then turn your head to the right and hold on to your left knee with your right hand and put your left hand somewhere behind your right ear. Your face is turned as much to the right as you can comfortably. And already check, right? Look at your hands. Are you gripping with your hands? If it's difficult to hold your knee, you could hold your pant leg, you could hold higher up your thigh. You just do your version of this that's comfortable, right? It's the comfort that allows for the learning process. I can't stress that enough. Okay, and then when you breathe out, as you bring your knee toward your elbow, see how you can bring your elbow in the direction of your knee. And how do you lean your weight in this situation? How can you soften your left shoulder and your left elbow? What happens in your shoulders? Keep checking if you're holding your head, you're really feeling the weight of your head. So you're bypassing unnecessary strain in your neck. Remember, if it feels hard, if it feels like a strain, you do less until maybe you just imagine it. Maybe you don't do it at all. Okay, good. Leave it, lengthen yourself out on the floor. And notice now all the places that the mat is touching along your spine and along your legs and your shoulders and your arms. And notice the size and the shape of your rib cage from your breastbone in the front, wrapping around underneath your armpits, along the sides of you, sides of your waist, and connecting to your spine in the back. Bring your attention back to your breathing. What does it feel like now? Bend your knees and stand your feet. Interlace your fingers behind your head again. And then before going anywhere or doing anything, take note of your own ambition already. Is there some way that you're preparing yourself? Oh, this is the interesting game that we're playing, right? There's something in that anticipation that disallows all the possible organizations. It means there's already a pre-organization that happens in that anticipation. So your knees are bent, your feet are standing, and you can feel the support of the floor along the bottoms of your feet. And take a couple moments to follow your breathing and the way that your chest expands when your hands are behind your head. And if there's a change in the pressure along the floor when you inhale. And then point your elbows comfortably toward the ceiling. And when you breathe out, as gently as possible, lift your feet a little bit from the floor. Bring your knees in the direction of your chest a little bit. And bring your elbows in the direction of your knees. Lift your head just a little bit. And feel the length of your spine along the floor. And see if you can get really clear. If you were a piece of paper that was being folded, where would that fold happen for you? Now continue a few times like this, and your eyes can be open or closed, but point your eyes in the direction of your feet and feel how that is. Your feet lift away from the floor, your knees go toward your chest. And as you bring your knees in toward your chest, you lift your head and point your elbows a little bit toward your knees. And look with your eyes in the direction of your feet. And now compare doing the exact same movement, but with your eyes looking at the ceiling. Can you fold just as well with your eyes looking at the ceiling as with your eyes looking at your feet? What's different? You can investigate that a little bit. You can go back and forth a couple times. Look at the ceiling, a couple times look at your feet. See what you can find there. Just keep checking that you're not getting ambitious. You're not straining your neck. You're not straining your hands, your feet, your ankles. Okay, and then bring your feet down, bring your arms down. You can lengthen your legs or keep your feet standing, whatever you prefer. Give yourself a little break. So we go through this somewhat painstaking process of these slow details in the Feldenkrais Method in order to learn how to sense ourselves more. And we can do that in the container of these awareness through movement lessons. However, most significantly, you can maintain that practice in whatever your regular activities are. Yoga or fitness or cycling or just walking or sitting or whatever it is. It's about learning whatever situation that you are in, that you can have an improved sense of your whole self. And in that improved sense, you will begin to notice where you are straining unnecessarily. So, a very simple example is sitting in a chair all day. One of the reasons that it's so toxic on our system is that we're probably engaged with something in our eyes, in our head, looking at our screen, and we're completely detached from the sensation in our body. And then the only sensation we practice recognizing is pain. So we feel nothing until sitting creates pain. And then we practice our sensory repertoire going from feeling nothing to feeling pain, to feeling nothing to feeling pain. And it shows up over and over again throughout our daily activities. So in this method, we're curious to find out if we can improve that spectrum of sensation between nothing and pain. If you discover in these variations that you're just repeating a movement, you're just following an instruction, repeating a movement, not actually listening to what it is that you're doing, well, yeah, then it just becomes a fitness class. You might unconsciously build certain muscles, but you won't actually improve the way that your system organizes itself for better functioning. So again, bend your knees, stand your feet. Turn your face to the left and hold your left knee with your left hand. And put your right hand behind your head. So you're holding somewhere around your left ear, left temple, whatever you can hold on to comfortably. And your elbow is helping so that you make like a basket with your right hand. And then gradually and gently, you start to investigate how it is in this situation to bring your elbow towards your knee and bring your knee in toward your elbow. Your right foot is standing on the floor. And so in this diagonal situation, what do you feel? What imprint does your back and your ribs and your pelvis make on the floor? Okay, and then bring your foot down. And switch, so your left hand is behind your head, your face is facing to the right. And bring your right knee in toward your chest and hold underneath your right knee with your right hand. And see how comfortable it is for you to keep your face facing the right just as much as you can without straining your neck at all. And particularly if it feels awkward with your hand under your head, then see where you can adjust so it's less awkward, more comfortable. And as you're exploring lifting on this side, again, check in with your breathing. And you might discover that if you exhale when you lift, there's a softening in your sternum and your breastbone that might help you get more support from your middle and upper back. You might be able to compare if this leaning in this way feels easier, or if the previous way felt easier. Do you feel the space between your hip and your shoulder on the right? And what about on the left? What way does your right shoulder go when your left shoulder lifts? Does your right shoulder also lift, or could your right shoulder drop down toward the floor? So when you're finished investigating, lengthen yourself out and take a rest. Roll your head a little bit left and right. Remind yourself what it feels like to do that in a very smooth and gentle and comfortable way. Really feel, what does comfort feel like? How do you know that you're doing something in a comfortable way? Okay, and then leave your head and bend your knees and stand your feet. A couple times, see if you can just imagine bringing your knees in the direction of your chest. Imagine how comfortably you could do that. Just imagine it. And then imagine that your hands are interlaced behind your head. And imagine your hands making a basket for your head and how soft your hands could be. And imagine, as you're lifting your head, what part of your spine is bending, what part of your spine is lifting from the floor, what part of your spine gets support from the floor. Just imagine the feeling. And we can practice in our imagination doing things in an effortless way. And then put your right hand behind your head and hold on below your left knee at the top of your left shin with your left hand. Right hand behind your head. Left hand holding just at the top of your left shin. Now already notice, right? Notice the quality of how you're holding and see where you could reduce the strain. And then as we continue, same thing, you see where can you do this in a soft way. So this time you're going to lift your head slightly, but you're going to start to bring your left knee toward the floor on the left. And as you gradually bring your left knee toward the floor on the left, you'll feel yourself starting to roll a little bit onto the left side of your spine, your left ribs, your left shoulder, and then come back and lower your head. And what is the range of motion that is smooth and comfortable? So your left foot is lifted, your left knee is toward your chest. You're holding somewhere in your left leg that you can easily. And then bring your left leg to the left, toward the floor. And as you do that, start to lift your head. You'll see the moment that it makes sense to lift your head so that you can roll yourself toward your left side, just as much as you can easily. And see how you can lean onto your left ribs, your left shoulder. See how your right leg follows. Yeah, exactly. And then the game becomes, sure, you can get over there, but can you come back with the same elegance and ease, right? So go only as much as you can reverse it without straining. But don't get ambitious. Take rests when you need to. You don't have to wait for me to tell you to rest. See if you can let it be a little pleasurable, a little interesting. And don't think about doing it right. Just like giving yourself a little massage along the left side of you. And then the next time you're on your left side, stay there. And resting here as much as you can on your left side, you're still holding your left knee, your right hand still behind your head. You're just staying to the left. And see if you can stay kind of balanced on your left side and bring your elbow and your knee a little bit toward each other and then back. Just a little bit, just a little bit, just a little bit. So it's asking something very interesting. It's asking for you to have sensory awareness of getting support from the floor. You're leaning on your left side. And then you're changing the support from the floor as you bring your elbow and your knee a little closer together and then apart. A little bit together and a little bit apart. But you stay on your left side and you just do what you can easily. Right? Maybe your version isn't quite what I'm saying, but it's what you can do without strain. Okay, and then leave it and rest. You compare the contact of the right and the left side of you, right and left side of your spine, right and left leg, right and left shoulder. And then switch sides. Bend your knees and stand your feet. And put your left hand behind your head. And hold on to the top of your right shin, just below your right knee with your right hand. And start to play with how it is on this side to bring your knee to the right. And as you start to roll yourself a bit to your right side, at some moment you'll lift your head a little bit to help. So you find out what works for you, how to gently roll along your right side. Your right ribs, your right shoulder. And pay close attention to if you're actually resisting the floor. This is a weird habit that a lot of us have, where instead of receiving the floor and letting gravity support our movement, we actually resist gravity. It's like we don't really trust gravity will help us. So if that sounds familiar, find out if instead of tightening your right side away from the floor, if you could somehow soften your right side and receive the floor. And your left foot and leg are soft. They might support the movement, however that means for you. And keep bringing your right knee over to the right until you take your whole self. Just a comfortable amount. Maybe it's 1 millimeter. Rolling to the right and then coming back, and rolling to the right and coming back. Yeah, and again, noticing that reversibility factor. That's the funny little thing, is because if you get to that point that you kind of flop, see what you can learn in there before just sort of flopping. Where's the place that you have motor control that you can still reverse it without anything choppy or floppy? Right? Like I said, it could be 1 millimeter, right? That's what's interesting, is the place that you can keep learning something. Okay, and then come to your right as much as you can be comfortable on your right side in this situation. So roll as much to the right as you can be comfortably. And then we could call it balancing on your right side. How do you negotiate your elbow and your knee. Now don't practice straining, because you'll be doing that for the rest of the week. See if you can practice a movement that feels pleasant and easy. Don't lie to yourself, don't cheat. So you're somewhat on your right side. Yeah, for some of you, you're completely on your right side. It doesn't matter, it's whatever feels good for you. And then in that position on your right side, you're bringing your elbow and your knee, your right knee and your left elbow, a little bit toward each other and then away from each other. Okay, and then take a rest. And then one more time, bend your knees and stand your feet. Hold on to your left knee with your right hand. And hold on to the bottom of your left foot with your left hand. And if you can't quite reach the bottom of your left foot, then maybe it's along the side of your ankle or wherever you can reach. So that basically you have the top of your lower left leg bone and the bottom of your lower left leg bone. So your left hand, that's it, exactly. Yeah. And then in this situation, see how it is to bring your forehead in the direction of your knee and your knee in the direction of your forehead. Both of your hands are somewhere on your lower leg, wherever you can reach them. Yep, so put your right hand higher up toward your knee. There you go. Yeah, now what's interesting, when you've been doing this bending movement the whole lesson, what's interesting here? Is there something different about how you bend yourself now that both of your hands are on your leg and you're lifting your head without your hands? Where do you feel you're bending? Okay, and then switch legs. And see how it is on this side. But check that you're not pulling with your hands, right? You're bending at your spine so that your knee can come toward your forehead and your forehead can come toward your knee. Don't strain with your hands. Your right hand is somewhere near the bottom of your foot, left knee, left hand on somewhere around your knee. Okay, now keep your knee toward your chest, but switch your hands. So now your right hand's higher up and your left hand's lower down toward the inside edge of your foot. Inside edge of your foot. And then see how it is to do it in this situation. Yeah, what's different? Where do you look with your eyes when you do this? And then switch legs with your hands in this variation. So your right hand will go toward the inside of your left foot. Right hand for the inside of your right foot. Left foot. Right hand for the inside of your left foot. Left hand on your knee. Yeah, exactly. And see how that is. So your left, what am I saying? Your left hand is holding below your left knee. Right hand is under your foot. Good, and then stand both of your feet on the floor a moment. And bring both of your knees in toward your chest. And just like you are a baby and you're holding your own self. Put your right arm underneath both of your knees, like you're holding yourself. Your right arm, slide your right arm and hand underneath in the crease behind both of your knees. Yep, just like you're holding, you're carrying yourself like a baby. Underneath this time, not in front. Yep, just your right arm. So you see how much your right arm can scoop up both your legs, right? You just see what's possible within that. Yeah. But make sure that your feet are hanging and your ankles are soft, right? Don't lift your feet in the air. Yeah, exactly. So take a couple moments and orient yourself in the most comfortable version. Don't try to achieve something here. It's just a funny little position. It doesn't mean anything. But it'll change the way that you feel the floor. Now put your other hand behind your head. And already before doing anything, you might notice a difference in how you feel the floor on the right and left side of you. And then see how it is to bring your head toward both of your knees and both of your knees toward your head. Without any ambition, just curious about the feeling of how you touch the floor and where you bend, where you can reduce the effort. And bring your feet back down to the floor. Switch your arms and then bring your knees in toward your chest. Scoop up yourself with your left arm under both of your knees. Your right hand behind your head. Yeah, and just pause for a moment, already assessing where you might be straining before you even start moving, right? And adjust wherever you need. And then when you feel as easeful as possible, then see how it is on this side. You lift your head, bring your knees towards your head. And how do you get support from the floor? Your other hand is behind your head. What parts of your back lift? And what parts go down and push into the floor the most? Great. Leave it. Lengthen yourself out on the floor. Feel your contact. Bring your arms by your sides. What's new in the way that you perceive your primary image? What parts of yourself are in your sensory awareness? What feedback do you get from the floor? What does your breathing feel like now? So let's see if there's any tangible improvement. Let's see if your nervous system learned something that you can observe with your analytical, intelligent mind. So bend your knees and stand your feet. And let's go back to the very first movement that you did. Interlace your fingers behind your head. And just a couple times to retest how it is, right? Just the feeling. You just want to compare, how does it feel to do this movement now? So a couple times lift your head and bring it back down. You can just do that a couple times and see how that feels. And then bring your head back down, and the next time you lift your head, bring your left knee toward your chest and bring your left elbow toward your left knee. See how that is now? Any clearer, any easier, any smoother? Maybe just different somehow. Maybe there's something you noticed you didn't notice before. And then do it a few times. Bring the right knee toward the right elbow. See how that is. And then do it a couple times on the diagonal. See how the diagonal feels. Opposite elbow to opposite knee. Still not ambitious, just seeing what it feels like. See if you can remember what it felt like at the beginning of the lesson and what it feels like now. And maybe there's no change. It doesn't need to be a change. We don't need a reward. It's just a process. Okay, that's it. And then once you've investigated that, bring your arms down. And probably the most interesting part of the whole lesson is once we come out of the container of the lesson and see if there's been a shift in our overall alignment because of this improvement in our sensory awareness. So bend your knees and stand your feet. Roll over to your side. And slowly and gently sit up and stand up. And feel yourself, once you get there, standing again on the hard floor. And notice the contact that each of your feet makes with the floor. And notice your sense of uprightness. And you might open your eyes and look along your horizon line and see how you feel the support for your head and your shoulders and your trunk over your hips, over your legs and onto your feet, and how you feel your breathing. And then take a stroll around and see what it feels like to shift weight onto one leg and the other, to sense for the floor under your feet. Noticing your chest and your head, your breathing. So Sunday's class, we will investigate extension, the opposite of this, and see how that shows up for you. And so that's it for now. Thanks for coming, and enjoy the rest of your day.